What's your opinion of accelerators like TechStars and Y Combinator? The first accelerator that came out was Y Combinator, Paul Graham's fascinating attempt to start at the earliest stages. And when he started, I was actually running an accelerator and co-working space in New York City at that point. And we said, wow, he's going really early. I mean, we were angel investors looking to fund early stage companies that had some kind of product in the market, some kind of traction. And Paul was saying, hey, he's going to invest in somebody with an idea, literally a PowerPoint, back of a napkin. And the whole thesis behind Y Combinator when it first started was to take a couple of grad students and fund them for 3 months so they could eat ramen and worry about getting to an MVP, a minimum viable product, and start a company. And so that's how the amount that they were funding came from in the 3-month period to see if they could actually get to a product. It proved, of course, phenomenally successful, and some amazing companies came out of that. And as it became successful, the number of companies applying became more and more and more, and it became a sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy, sort of like the Ivy League. One of the reasons that YC companies are so great is they're extraordinarily selective coming in. They select way fewer companies percentage-wise than the Ivy Leagues do. So it's a tiny single-digit percentage of companies that are applying to Y Combinator actually are selected. And so, like a selective college, if you start with 1% of companies that are applying to your high-end accelerator program, off the bat, you could just say, okay, that's it, and then you could go home and you'd have an extraordinary group. They then provide a lot of networking and support, both peer support from other great companies, as well as the mentor support, and then, of course, providing the YC imprimatur and the halo, and then taking them out to demo day and to other investors. And so now just being accepted for YC is almost a Charlie and the Chocolate Factory's golden ticket. But they do really great things. And so there is no question the number of companies coming out of Y Combinator, they're not perfect. It doesn't mean every company selected is going to be the next Airbnb. But as a rule, they are really bright, they're really driven, they're working hard, they're selected well, and they have access by virtue of YC to a wide number of resources. TechStars, with a sort of a fast follower behind that, coming out of Boulder, Colorado, Brad Feld and Jared Polis and that crowd, have done a remarkable job at taking the concept of an accelerator and structuring it and organizing it and scaling it. And so they now have programs that they work on with corporations. They have programs in different cities. And again, they're being very selective. They're adding real value. They're adding money. And they're generating companies at the back end, not all of whom are going to succeed, but many of whom will. And that's the name of the game, given the fact that angels and VCs are typically looking at 1 in 10, 1 in 100 home run successes. The fact that if you get 2 or 3 or 4 out of a class of 20 or 30 or 40 from Y Combinator or TechStars, that's an amazing feat right there. What has happened, however, has been very interesting in the accelerator space. So first of all, YC has been a victim of its own success. And so I was talking to their team last year, and they say they don't look at PowerPoints anymore. They don't look at ideas. They have now gotten so successful with so many people applying that they're now taking companies that have traction, and they are looking for later stage companies. Actually, Quora, one of my favorite question and answer websites, went through the program a couple of years ago, and Quora is valued at 1.8 billion. But so YC is now moving later as opposed to its early, just simply an idea. TechStars, I think, is still looking a little bit on the early side, but all of these have the option now of taking later stage companies for the same deal they used to give earlier stage companies, so why not do it if you can get the same kind of deal? The challenge with accelerators comes from the explosion that we've seen in accelerator programs themselves. So there's no question that the top programs, the Y Combinators, the TechStars, the 500 startups, the SOS ventures, all of those, the Dream It ventures, those kind of top 5 or 10, they're all spectacular. And I routinely mentor and advise at many of them, and they're just extraordinary teams they pick. They're all driven, they're doing great stuff, and the companies that come out, they don't all succeed, but they're really impressive. The problem is as you get farther down the list, and today there are literally thousands, I mean that's 4 figures, well over 1,000 accelerators who are putting out their shingle and trying to follow the same type of process that folks like TechStars and Y Combinator are doing. and they can't all be YC or TechStars. And so some of them, especially the specialized ones that are working in a particular area, a particular region, a particular industry, those can be really good. They can bring to bear both money and networks and expertise in a particular area. But a lot of the lesser tier, the bottom half, say, of the thousand, can be really problematic. I mean, they can take a fair amount of equity from their companies. They can not provide a lot in terms of mentorship in return, and they don't provide a whole lot of cash either. So accelerators in general, really interesting. The ones you mentioned, TechStars and YC, are spectacular, as are their brethren in the top 5 or 10. The ones down at the bottom of the pot, not quite so useful and therefore challenging. So if you're thinking about applying to an accelerator, be sure to check out the accelerator, check out who's affiliated with them, companies that have gone through it, talk to founders who've done it before, and see if they find that there's been real value added.